This episode and every episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show is brought to you by Ironmonger Brewing. Visit Ironmonger at their tap room in Marietta, Georgia, or online at ironmongerbrewing.com.
Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yo, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
And welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios in Marietta, Georgia. And this week we're talking with Abomination Brewing. I'm Tim Dennis, and with me as always is my good friend and co-host, Brian Hewitt.
Hey, Tim. So joining us today, we have Joe Feldman and Josh Arno, owners and brewers for Abomination Brewing. We're going to talk about the gypsy brew life, the social distancing collab that they're working on, future plans, probably hot dogs and metal like you do.
Sure.
And and more things. Joe and Josh, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, guys, we were talking a little bit off air here. Brian used a term that I think is no longer cool for gypsy brewing. That's
TIL today. I
right.
learned.
You learned, Brian. It's actually nomad. Nomad or nomadic is actually the preferred term now. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we were calling it that same thing for years, and just after a few people corrected us and we realized our ways, and we changed over to the nomadic, which I think is a cooler term anyway. So it was a good move.
It does sound pretty cool. Absolutely. We were nomadic radio for a while, Brian.
We were,
we floated around a little bit. So, guys, how are things going up there? We know we're trying to get back to some normalcy. Are you kind of getting back in the groove a little bit?
Yep, life is finally starting to get back to normal. Things are starting to open up. You can go out and get something to eat, which is nice. I mean, I don't know how it was for most people, but we had like 3 months lockdown, being so close to New York City and just big cities in general, New Haven, right. Connecticut, dude, we got hit hard. It's nice to get out of the house.
Well, see, we're in Georgia. We actually mentioned this last week. Our governor was just like, you know what? Let's just rock. Let's just open everything, do everything. We'll be fine.
We'll close for half a day, and then we'll get over it. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
So,
how has that been since you guys reopened up? Have you had like a resurgence like they're talking about, or is this the way to go?
I'd need to look at the data to verify. I think there was a little uptick, but it's kind of been up and down, I think, hasn't it, Brian? It's like we didn't see like a crazy spike.
I don't think we did.
Yeah,
I haven't been watching the number. I'll be honest with you, I have not been watching those numbers very closely.
To be honest, a lot of our business owners actually just self-policed it. The governor's like, hey, you can open up. They're like, you know what? We're not comfortable with this right now. So we started seeing people do stuff like they'd open their patio and do some social distancing there, and they've just been kind of slowly rolling back into it.
Strong adherence to the guidelines of mask wearing, cleaning, social distancing, marking off spots where you can't sit to make sure people are spread around. And I don't think they're even required to. They're just doing it.
They're doing it, man. Yeah. Being safe.
Nice.
Being safe,
That's awesome. Good. Yeah, up here in Connecticut right now, it's only outdoor dining, which I think started about a week ago. So everybody's making these makeshift patios, turning parking lots into just places to hang out. It's kind of hilarious, closing down streets and just setting tables out there. So just kind of doing what they have to do and, give people some sort of sense of normalcy. We actually went out earlier today for lunch and got some beers and lunch, and it was just kind of felt weird being out there again.
Yeah, right.
That's been eating so long.
Yeah, Brian and I went out and we grabbed some actually really good barbecue this weekend. Yep. So had some barbecue, and we're like, you know what? This is nice, and it feels a little weird after so long to sit down because our restaurants are open inside as well. So but we sat down and had some ribs and brisket and all kinds of good stuff. It was nice.
I got to tell you, brisket is not cheap anymore.
It's
not
a
lot in price.
There's brisket surcharges now because of the beef shortages. So
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
I heard that about bacon too. I actually went to go add bacon to a burger the other day, and it was like a $4 upcharge. I was like, for 2 slices of bacon.
In the words of Joe Exotic, we are never going to financially recover from this. Brian, despite the environment's best efforts, we had a pretty good weekend.
We did.
We went out and got to try a new brewery, Drowned Valley, up in Cartersville, Georgia. They've invited us out for a while. We got to go up there, meet Dean and JD, the owners. We appreciate their hospitality. Tasty beers there too. They had
big fan of that coffee blonde.
Coffee blonde, that was very good. Yep. That was very good. But nice tasting room, nice patio. Packed out there, so good times. Yeah. We popped down to our friend Scott's place, Burnt Hickory Brewery. Had to go down there and check out. He had what he was calling his imaginary anniversary party. And he said he's really going to do the big one. This should have been his 8th anniversary because of everything going on. He did a few can releases and stuff. And he said probably for 8.5, he's going to have a big blowout party. But Brian, those Berliners were on point. Or
they were, yeah.
Kettle sours, as he said.
Exactly.
So, what was your favorite flavor? Was it the carrot Berliner or the blue Berliner?
Oh boy, that's tough. I might go with the blue, but that carrot was surprisingly good for being a carrot Berliner. It was really
crazy,
good.
Right?
Yeah, it was good.
Straight carrot, not like carrot cake.
No, just that's what we thought.
Carrot.
It was a straight carrot, and it had just a little bit of sweetness to it. I actually tried it. The brewery owner's a good friend, and I tried it really just to give him a hard time about making a silly beer. And I tried it. I'm like, this is actually pretty tasty.
Speaking of silly beers, though, I had something called Skitjits, which was their Digits Blood Red Orange IPA,
right,
with Skittles added to it, and it was a very potent beer.
It was potent. That's right.
I thought it was all right. I thought it was boozy.
It was, yeah. And you know what? Speaking of potent beers, Brian, we had a little fun. We ran a poll on our Instagram this week, asking people what did they consider a strong beer. So we're going to see here. Josh, Joe, what if you had to pick a number? Here's our tiers. We'll see what you think. I put greater than 5%, greater than 8%, greater than 10%, or greater than 12%. So which of those would you guys think most people said was the break point for a strong beer?
I mean, that number is so skewed for us. Everything we do, doubles, triples. I feel like everybody wants big, and it makes that hard to guess.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. You know what? I actually had a friend message me and say that. He's like, 12%. That's where most of my beers start. That's like a session beer for me here.
So. Yeah, I mean, our session beers are honestly 8.6%. I think that's like really the bottom of where we're at. So coming from us, brand brewing wise, I would say 12% and higher. But for me personally, I would say 10%.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'd probably be more on board with that. I mean, we had a guy who used to come to shares with us who would open up. Everything was 15%, dude. He had,
that was the bare minimum. Everything he opened was 15. It's like,
man,
all right, tell you what, wild. Homebrew days back in the day. I know you guys used to be homebrewers, so I'm sure you're familiar with all that.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So how strong can you brew it? Sure enough. Well, according to our Instagram followers, 2% said greater than 5% is already strong for them. So I wonder if maybe they were an English beer drinker.
Yeah,
could be.
Used to those pub ales. So
too used to those bitters.
That's right. Exactly. 5%. We're getting crazy here. So over 8%, 41% of respondents said over 8% gets into what they say is strong. 43% said greater than 10%. So that's 84% between that 8 and 10 mark there. And then we have 12% that said greater than 12%. So Brian, what about you? What's the break point for strong for you?
I really start thinking strong around the 10 to 12%. Probably 10%. I think when I see that, it's like, oh, this is a little potent. You get double digits.
You hit double digits. I think when it falls between that 8 and 10, I start taking note of the ABV. And if you're breaking 10 or 12, I mean, I love my Black Tuesday. So
when I see that 8% with a DIPA or something like that, I'm like, all right.
Yeah, good stuff. Sure enough.
All right, Tim, I think it is time for us to get into the beers of the week.
Crack open a cold one. It's the Truck and Tap Beer of the Week. Woo-hoo! Craft beer and food trucks in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com.
Well, Brian, as always, we have a great selection of beers, man. We did a little pre-gaming here. One from our friends at Three Taverns and Good Word Brewing. 3 words, a double IPA. We also have one courtesy of Terrapin Brewing, a strawberry dreamsicle beer. So we got into that. We're also going to drink a Dissolver 36 Stairs to Rankin, Trim Tab Peanut Butter Coffee, and Atlanta Brewing Baked Goods 2. So, Brian, we're short on time, but can you squeeze us in a news story here?
I'm going to do just one, and I think it's intriguing that the way people are dealing with the pandemic. One resourceful brewery owner in Seattle moved into his brewery, actually moved his entire stuff into his brewery to save costs and keep the brewery afloat. People often say they live at the brewery, but John Marty of Lowercase Brewing in Seattle actually does. His new residence is a 99 square foot room right above the brewery's boiler. Apparently, he's got a DIY bunk bed and a sweet rug that ties the room together. So he's all hooked up.
He's ready to rock,
That's
man.
right.
Sounds good. Well, we need to take a break. We'll be right back very soon with more from Abomination Brewing. Brian and Tim, the beer guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth are always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy, Brian. They've got 18 of them.
As for the truck part, that's where it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks, so you're getting a different menu every day.
Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth.
Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the beer guys sent you.
Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!
Now, back to the Beer Guys radio show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Remember, all episodes are available on demand, so if you missed the broadcast, Beer Guys Radio is available on all popular podcasting apps and maybe broadcasting apps. I don't know.
Broadcasting apps, yes.
They might be there too.
We're on radio.com. That's would
right.
Be a broadcasting
Well, there
app,
you
right?
go. There you go. Now let's get back to our talk with Abomination Brewing.
Guys, thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it. Good to have you on here with us this evening.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Abomination Brewing, we've established that you are a nomadic brewer. We talk a little bit about kind of the coronavirus and how that's impacted things. Has being a nomadic brewer, has that impacted your ability to brew through all of this?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely took a pretty big dip when this all first started, just because nobody, I mean, as a nomadic brewery, we're sending all this beer out to bottle shops, bars, restaurants, kegs were a huge portion of our business. So those all closing down definitely took a big chunk. And there was some uncertainty of where we were going to go. And we kind of just went in stride and changed over to canning and packaging everything and, going to what was selling and what everybody needed, which was package stores, liquor stores, just selling directly out of 12% brew pub facility in Connecticut. Yeah. So at least we had that. We were still able to still sell stuff out the door. It was definitely weird, but we just kind of had to pivot and take a different turn and move pretty much to all cans.
Yeah, that's good that you were able to sell from, your partner's brew pub there, because that's, I actually talked to another nomadic brewer here just this weekend. We saw him at Burnt Hickory, Brian, and, he was saying, man, this is tough. He didn't have anywhere to really, sell his product. So it's, when all you can do is taps and that, no festivals to get the word out there.
Which, that was huge for us. We had, I think 11 festivals set up for the summer too. And that was a whole nother thing, trying to figure out where all that beer was going to go. So,
yeah, we're still like a super young brand. We've only been on the scene for maybe a year and 8 months now. So we usually hit the festival scene pretty hard and really try and pump our name out there despite our distribution network. So, we want as much people to be able to get us as we can and as they can. And it just sucks that this is everything got canceled. Stuff in November got canceled,
Right.
Nobody knew.
And it was always nice for us, we don't have a tasting room, tap room. So for us being able to go out there and having the direct contact with our people actually drinking our beer was huge for us, and getting the, on site just reactions of how everything is. And, what
Yeah.
people think of our beers, and now we don't have that anymore. So
You brought up brewery and taproom, and I read somewhere that you guys were on the lookout to leaving the nomadic behind and going for a taproom at some point in the future. Is that still on the cards at this point? I imagine it's probably put on hold, at least temporarily.
We surprisingly didn't take too big of a hit during all of this corona stuff, and since Connecticut figured out everything that they were doing and bars and restaurants opening back up, we have seen such a huge influx in our beer. I mean, we normally will distro 60 barrels across 32 states, and we were putting out 60 barrel batches of beer, and the entire state of Connecticut was buying them from us. So, I mean, we've got them to thank for that to like really help us get through the coronavirus.
I mean, one good thing for brewers right now is that everybody wants as much alcohol as they can get
Yes, they
with the
do.
way
Yeah.
things are going on. So it's one benefit there.
A story
Yeah.
we didn't get to is that the Memorial Day weekend, $1 billion in off-premise beer sales,
I
which
saw
is
that.
like
Needs their beer, man.
slightly
Yeah.
behind last year's 4th of July.
Yeah.
Huge
Yeah,
sales.
absolutely.
Insane.
Yeah.
We saw some creative things from some of these breweries with the social distancing things like virtual beer tasting, virtual beer dinners. Did you guys capitalize on any of that type of stuff?
We ended up actually setting up a multi-brewery collaboration, which kind of goes into we had all these beer festivals and traveling and collabs set up over the summer that with breweries that, like Good Word, like we talked off air about, that we were planning on brewing with these guys and unfortunately couldn't. So we reached out to like a bunch of our friends and just, hey, if we can't get there to actually brew beer together, let's kind of brew something virtually and come up with a cool way to collab without actually being together. So,
Yeah, everybody was down for it too. So,
That's your social distancing collab, correct?
yeah.
And that's I guess just sharing ideas. Who's going to brew it, or is everybody brewing?
yeah, we got 14 breweries in on it.
Cool. Okay.
Across Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey. So yeah, what was that? 4 or 5 states? Yeah, 14 different breweries. Icarus, Rotunda, couple other guys, Kinsman. I'm gonna forget everybody. I'm gonna feel like a jerk now that I'm naming names.
We'll put a link in the notes so we don't
Alright.
forget.
So many
anyone.
more.
Yeah.
And much, much more.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So we just kind of reached out to like all of our friends and just kind of said, hey, man, like we can't brew together right now. Let's brew something together, though. So we came up with the artwork with our awesome artist, Sam Heimer. And so everybody actually used the same labels. We gave them the same base recipe. And then we gave them 5 different hops to kind of pick and choose from. Told everybody to kind of choose 3. So everybody's version and variant was completely different and go from there.
You mentioned the artist Sam Heimer, and we were looking that up years ago. Brian is still a big cigar guy, and I used to be a big cigar guy. And I don't know if you guys are into cigars, but there's a cigar brand called Tatuaje, and they do what they call their Monster Series each year. And they do interesting packaging like the box and the labeling that'll be the Drac, the Frank, different things like that.
It's very Halloween-y.
Yeah,
Yes.
very Halloween. But he did a contest one time where he put what they called spooky tickets, 13 spooky tickets, and there were 666 boxes
Yep.
and
Nice.
13 spooky tickets. And I'm going to tie all this together soon. I'm not rambling for no point, I swear. But the artist on the spooky tickets was Sam Heimer. So Sam actually
that's
did those
awesome.
spooky tickets for the Tatuaje, and I did not find one of the tickets in the box, but I actually purchased one of the overruns from Sam and had the box and the artwork and the ticket and all that going together. So I'm familiar with Sam's work.
Wow.
That's
And,
pretty cool.
Nice.
I-
Yeah,
I-
that's freaking awesome.
We actually did a beer festival with them, and we did a beer festival. He actually did the art for the festival. Joe and I just kind of became obsessed with his artwork, and I reached out to him, not thinking that I was ever going to actually get a response. And turns out he is the nicest, coolest dude on the planet. and was like, yeah, man, I would love to do a beer label. And just from then, like him and I, like, it's kind of crazy. He'll come to me with ideas. I'll just say some weird random to him and it'll just appear the next day. He'll send me a JPEG of some crazy stuff he's working on. I'm like, how did that even come out of your head? It's wild.
Right. Yeah.
Does he do all of your art for your cans, or do you have a bunch of artists?
We use a couple different artists. I actually do all the labels for the Fog, so that one's mine. But most of the really detailed, wild stuff is Sam Heimer. We also use Earl Kess and another Philly-based guy, Fenzi. So we were started as, we really wanted to focus on using local artists and getting their name out there and just really featuring everybody and making sure that our cans look as beautiful as the beer inside of it tastes.
It's pretty cool. That's a whole different topic, beer art. And I actually saw Sam did an interview. I'm going to mess up the name of this podcast, but I think it's called like the 16-ounce pallet or the 12-ounce canvas.
16-ounce canvas.
Like yep. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, he did an interview on there, but it's interesting. Can art is pretty cool stuff, man.
It is.
Yeah, we actually had 2 artists on that podcast, which was pretty cool.
You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take a break, but we'll be back very soon to talk more with Abomination Brewing.
Are you really doing Facebook right? I'm Aaron Williams, and here's your Marketing Minute. Facebook is a fantastic place to communicate with your fans. I'm sure you're using it to let people know about your specials, new beers, events. In other words, you're talking at your audience. Instead, try talking with your audience. Start conversations, ask questions, and show your fans what's going on behind the scenes. You'll make more of them, I promise. For more marketing tips and tricks, head to crafted-consulting.com/radio.
As a brewery owner or taproom manager, are you looking for ways to enhance your customer experience while maximizing your revenues? Craft Cellar is a mobile solution that helps your brewery drive sales and attract new customers through online pre-sales for beer releases, events, and memberships. Get details now at craftcellar.com. Mention Beer Guys Radio after sign up and extend your free trial to a full 30 days. Remember, craftcellar.com, craftcellr.com.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Shake it back! Woo!
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our great radio affiliates, KCPX 1490 AM in Moab, Utah. Catch Beer Guys Radio on KCPX every Sunday at 3 p.m. local time. Now let's get back to our conversation with Abomination Brewing.
Joe, I have a question directly for you, sir. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. So when we were on break there, you mentioned that you had a little more info that you wanted to share about the possibility of opening a tasting room. What do we need to know?
So we are planning on opening up a tasting room. Unfortunately, I can't give much more information than that at this point in time, but we are planning to opening up a tasting room in Connecticut, and maybe we can release something more by the end of the year.
Okay. We'll just stay tuned. We'll keep an eye on things there to see what's going down.
So you guys were based in Pennsylvania. Are you all fully moved over to Connecticut at this point?
So this whole thing started about, 5-6 years ago. We were looking for an actual physical location in Pennsylvania. We were trying to open up tasting room, brew pub facility. We had a spot in the Lehigh Valley, Allentown. Meanwhile, we were just kind of doing beer festivals, doing collaborations, pretty much anywhere we could get our beer in. That's what we were doing. Meanwhile, trying to open up this tasting room, we ended up fighting for, about 2 years with zoning, economic development, just dealing with a ton of BS. Ended up
a nightmare.
Yeah. Going from that point to just saying, all right, what do we do now? How do we make beer? How do we get beer out in the market? We just dealt with this for 3-4 years, and now it's just become nothing. So we ended up coming into contact with 12% out in Connecticut and started just collaborating and brewing a ton of beer with them. They were contract brewing us out of Boston, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and just trying to get in as much tanks as we possibly could at that time. And then it's kind of all come full circle back to us opening up an actual facility now.
If you're putting your dream list together, and I'm sure you've done this already, what will the tasting room? What kind of experience can we expect at the Abomination tasting room?
I mean, we are planning on making what we want to make. We're super into lagers, sours, barrel aged stuff. We do a lot of our, I don't even want to call them clean beers. Maybe just ales is a better term for it. Like our ales and our sours, like our crazy adjuncts and our heavily fruited sours, we save them for 12%. I'm thinking, our spot's going to be a little more refined. We'll get a little crazy here and there, but for the most part, we're looking at doing the stuff that like you're not going to be able to see through our distribution network, and getting crazy in terms of Rausch beer as opposed to crazy fruited sour.
The Rausch beer.
The
worst beer in the world, Brian.
I actually was going to ask. I had a question about asking about that because with your theme, Only Hell Can Save Us, I think is one of your beers. I'm like,
yeah,
there should have been smoked malt in that. There should have been a little brimstone. You need a brimstone breakfast beer. Brimstone. That's what you need.
Some smoke, some hot peppers and stuff, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Heat, smoke. Yeah.
This seems like a good time to ask, since we're talking about these beers and the brews there. The name Abomination Brewing, where did the name come from? Does that refer to the brewers, the brewery, the beers?
Gonna take this one, Jared? You want me to?
No, that one's all you.
Oh. Oh, well, so we originally just kind of started wow, what can we ferment? Just like, how weird can we possibly get? And it, all went against the German purity law of just, water, grain, hops. And we're like, no, why does it have to stop there? We can ferment anything. Right. People have been fermenting anything for hundreds of years. Why is it just, nope, this is it. This is what beer is. So we said, and then we started brewing, water ice sours and, pretty much anything. It really started as like kind of wandering the aisles of grocery stores and finding some like really cool Asian markets and just things that aren't readily available to you, and finding things like, hey man, that would be really cool in a sour or an IPA or a stout. Nobody's doing this right now. So how weird can we get?
It's funny that you say that. You mentioned a water ice sour. I was just telling Brian about water ice this weekend. He'd never heard of it.
I have not.
Oh, no way, really? You guys don't have Rita's down there?
Well, Rita's was actually the one I mentioned. Rita's came in here maybe a decade ago now.
Well, they're Italian ice technically, right?
But they opened up several locations, and then I think they're gone now. They're totally gone now.
So really?
They came in and they did their... Yeah.
I've never known a life without water ice.
See? Yeah.
The Northeast thing, and like I've never had to worry about it, but like I couldn't imagine not having like a shaved ice confection. Like
the term water ice is confusing if you have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
No, it seems really clear. So water does become ice.
It does. Water ice. Correct.
I get it. Yeah, down with that. Yeah.
But that's Rita's did the frozen custard, which I'm a big fan of, and the water and the ice. And they would even do, Brian, a custard and ice together, which is it's insane.
Oh, that's the best one. I think it's called a gelato. It's unbelievable.
Or the gelati, I think is what they call it.
Okay.
And then you got the shakes. You can get them blended into shakes, and they're called mistos. And dude, it's just, it's so good.
Let's just turn to a commercial for Rita's. So
yeah, that's it. Yes, right here.
Rita's money.
You guys give us a call, Rita's. Abomination Brewing Company. You know where to find us.
See.
So how close is this to the old Snoopy snow cone maker? Because I am familiar somewhat with that. Going way back.
Yeah, that's it. Pretty
That's
close.
basically it. Yeah, that's pretty similar.
Okay, I'm on board with it.
I mean, Snoopy was legit back in the day, man.
Can we do
Snoopy,
Waldmeister syrup with it? Because that's now we're talking.
Ooh.
Pour
little
some
bit
after the
juice in
peanuts
it.
get
Yeah.
Oh,
done.
man.
Yeah, a little Waldmeister
Man,
shaved
we're
ice.
getting
Yeah.
some great. You know, Brian would actually, if you ever need another brewer, and Brian looks to enter the beer industry, you know, in the production side, your philosophy seems to fit with him.
Perfect.
Basically, yeah.
Put everything in a beer. We'll tell he can't say the name of the beer on air, but he had an idea for a seafood goza.
Oh yes.
And,
Oh,
doing
you know,
the,
actually, I think I listened to your podcast about
much
that,
money
and
do you
I'm
want?
on board. Let's do it.
How do I get you? Let's
see,
go.
there you go. Let's do it, man. See, now you guys got to come down here and we'll hang in the studio. We got to come up there and brew a collaboration.
There we go.
Oh, we are more than fine with that. Let's do it. We'll
right.
put all the seafood weird goza you want to do. We're on board.
You ready, Brian?
I'm
ready?
so
ready
ready
to head
for
out
this.
now?
If there's anything we got in the Northeast, it's shellfish. Like, let's go. We'll
Oh
make this
yeah,
happen.
true enough, man.
We could do a nice seafood goza, and then we'll actually kind of do it like the old school Berliners, and we'll just shave some juicy water ice on the brim of it. It'll be a whole modern take.
My mouth is watering, guys. My mouth is
So
watering.
my mouth is full of ice and water. both.
Yeah, right. No, it's unsafe. It's really unsafe getting Brian's ideas out there. You know?
I like them. You're talking to the wrong guys. We hear some weird stuff. We're like, hell yeah, let's do it.
Well, that's Brian and I kind of balanced each other out when it came to the brewing because we literally brewed one batch of an ESB, and Brian's like, let's make a fried tomatoes and onion and bean dip stout. I'm like, hold down, Brian, slow down.
Yeah, that's a little.
So,
We did do a sun-dried tomato and basil saison,
We
and it
did.
was
We
good.
did.
I liked it a
Yes.
lot. Now,
Yeah.
it was polarizing. Some people didn't care for it as much.
Yeah.
I would be very interested to try that if you have any still.
But we did it, man. I don't know if
I
I don't think I have
I
any.
think
Brian.
it's-
You drink it all.
I would have to look real hard, but I think it's
Yeah.
mostly gone now. It was
Okay.
delightful, though.
Well, you know, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to be back soon. And I think to continue the culinary topics, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about hot dogs, Brian.
Why not?
So, yeah. You're listening to Beer Guys Radio Show. We'll be back very soon with more from Abomination Brewing.
Have you ever thought about owning your own brewery but don't know what it takes to get one built? We're Storytime Construction, and we build breweries. We're Georgia's most experienced and hands-on contractors when it comes to building new breweries and tap rooms, or expanding existing breweries. We offer full build-outs, remodeling, and additions, as well as consulting and construction management. Give us a call at 770-733-4343. Storytime Construction. We build breweries.
As beer lovers, we know real beer, and Athletic Brewing makes non-alcoholic beer that stands shoulder to shoulder with full-strength craft beer. With a fraction of the calories and certified organic, it's a great beer to enjoy anytime. Check out Athletic's selection of IPAs, golden ales, stouts, and more at athleticbrewing.com. Use code BeerGuys25 for 25% off your first order, and U.S. customers get free nationwide shipping. Athletic Brewing, brew without compromise.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I didn't enjoy it at all.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Patrons get cool perks like Beer Guys swag and commercial-free episodes. Now let's get back to Abomination Brewing.
Guys, we made a promise before we went to break in the last segment that we were going to talk about hot dogs, so we will get to that. But there was something else that I thought about here that I want to talk about stouts, and I want to talk about THICC, thick stouts, boil times, and all that. The thick boys, because we're talking. That's right, 2 C's, 1 Z.
That's what
But we talked to a lot of brewers that these long boils, and when we say long boils, you know, that used to be, I mean, at one time a 4-hour would have been a
was
long
huge.
boil.
Yeah.
8 hours would have been insane. We have talked to at least a couple breweries that they're 24-hour boils on some of these beers.
We have not done a 24-hour boil, so it's
Okay.
hard
All right.
for us to jump in on that whole conversation. But our latest release, Midnight Snack 2, which was like a super fudgy birthday cake dessert, chocolate, just fudge in your face
Chocolate
out.
thick man.
Yes. Go on.
That's not a boy. That's a man.
Yeah, we boiled that for 5 hours, and
that's hot.
That boy was drinking like hot oil. I remember drinking like that Dogfish Head Miles Davis brew.
Right.
I remember thinking that was a thick stout. This put it just to shame. And
I like them.
You're talking
I like
dirty.
them thick. I like some stouts thick, man.
Keep talking dirty. Ooh.
And then, there's we have Orpheus Brewing here, makes them super thick to the point you get something that thick, it's really hard to get carbonation into it.
Yeah.
And so you get some of them, you open up, and there may be a little, how sometimes you'll just get some slight bubbling around the ring of the glass, and that's about it. I mean, for the most part, they're almost still. And I saw some people complain one time about, they're like, well, there's no carbonation here. I'm like, dude, you're drinking, 30 weight here. There's not a lot of carbonation.
You can lubricate a truck.
It's okay.
You're drinking 30 weight. Exactly.
Right.
Like,
it was great. But, you guys actually threw an idea out to us that I think is probably the most glorious thing I ever heard. So can you explain the boil solera to us?
God, Joe, this is on you, bud.
Yo, so the boil solera, you get that 24-hour boil going, right? So you're going. Getting a little too thick, boy. Add a little more of that mash into it.
That's it, man. Put a little bit more. Pull a little bit off, add a little bit in.
Going. Just keep pouring it in, every so often.
That's got to be what these guys are doing at this point, though. There's no way you're just riding out a 24-hour boil, especially if it's vigorous. Like, you guys are home brewers. Like, you guys have brewed. There's no way. If you sat there and rode out a 24-hour boil, that would be syrup. Caramelized syrup.
Yes, because I know the loss that we get in an hour or two,
2 hours.
Yeah, it's significant.
So it's pretty significant. I mean, I can't imagine, even if you're starting with like a 20, 30 barrel batch or what have you, 24-hour boil. I had to do the math on that. I'm curious to see what the math would say boil off on something like that was.
Yeah.
Because what do you think you'd end up with on a 20 barrel? 12 barrels?
Off of a 24-hour boil?
Yeah. Let's say we got to get 24 hours on there.
I would say less than that. I would say like 6, 7 area.
Oh, I'm down for that. I want to drink that.
Yeah, I'm thinking like 8. Like, I haven't worked on a great many amount of systems, but I've worked on a few systems, and there's no way if you were to boil for a full 24 hours, like a full boil, there's no way you're walking out of there. If you were on a 20 barrel system, there's no way you're walking out of there with more than 8 barrels.
I think it's more of a simmer system.
A slow simmer, man. Slow
simmer.
Cook it.
I'm just thinking like the restrictions on home brewers is such that you start off with like 15 barrels, you boil it down to 5 gallons, so you stay within your restrictions
stay there,
as a
right.
home brewer and have the thickest stouts
you
ever.
Slice. Let me get a slice of that beer.
Slice of that beer, yes.
Guys, we did want to say, Josh, when you sent your info back to do the show, we asked you what topics you'd like to discuss. I see that you have passion in your heart for hot dogs. Is that correct?
Oh, that was me.
Okay. So tell us about what's the perfect hot dog?
Dude, Chicago dog, all the way.
Chicago
it
dog.
hits every single note, dude. First of all, poppy seed bun is choice. All right.
Right.
You got the hot pepper on there, so you have the spice. You have the sweet relish, but you also have the mustard and the ketchup.
And a pickle spear, sweet relish, and
the pickle spear to balance out that sweet relish. Okay, the tomato is great for that, like to add to that acidity, but it kind of waters out the mustard a little bit.
I'm gonna completely disagree with this though. Right now, Philly dog, man. This is where it's at. All right, ready? Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Dawson's, Manioc, unbelievable. They give you a nice just succulent, beautiful potato roll from
Okay.
Martin's, obviously, because it's
Yes.
Pennsylvania. Get that boy nice and buttered. Put that on the flat top for a second while you heat up your delicious, delectable 43-cent hot dog out of a nice Martin's pack. Plop that bad boy right on that bun when it's all finished up. Some yellow mustard, some diced onions, ketchup, cheese, boom, done.
Crazy, man. You know, when I lived in New York, one of the side dishes we had up there that you don't see down here, I guess a regional dish, were salt potatoes. Do you guys know of salt potatoes?
I've never heard that actually, no.
Okay. See, I
I
think
just saw something on the Food Network about salt potatoes, but I can't for the life of me remember what they are.
Basically what they do is they take like a bag of new potatoes, the small red potatoes,
Mm.
and you boil them, and they seriously boil these things in like 5 pounds of salt. So it's like a whole bag of salt, the new potatoes, and then you serve them in a little dish in melted drawn butter. So that was
sounds fantastic.
Yeah, man. So our little hot dog stands here, you basically had your choice of reds or whites. You'd get your hot dog, they'd throw it on, you go around. Now, I'm all about a Chicago dog, but I'm also down with just some onions, sauerkraut, and mustard.
Yeah.
And
I think that's where it's at. It's the most simple as possible.
Yeah.
But
my best memories of eating hot dogs were going to like Phillies games in Philly and eating hot dogs on Dollar Dog days. They're literally dollar dogs. You got a nice Martin roll, which are like the potato rolls, and you're not eating a better hot dog than a better roll than that. And just hot dog and mustard. That was all they gave you. And I'm telling you right now, there is not a hot dog that tastes better in that moment than a hot dog with some onions on a Martin potato roll with some yellow mustard.
And I'm going to tell you right now, that's subjective.
Subjective. This is the most controversial part of the show so far here, man. So, You know something, Brian, you would dig in Philly, the soft pretzels that they've got there.
Oh, yes.
And then, I mean, you get them
with the Philly pretzel, man.
And they're different, Brian. They're not like anywhere else. So you gotta. They have them at street vendors. They sell them at the airport. Anytime. My old boss was from Philly, but every time he'd go up there, he'd come back with like a huge pack of these Philly soft pretzels. And we always look forward to his trip.
May have to road trip up there. Take a little vacation time and go.
Good stuff.
Some pretzel tourism.
That was a big thing growing up around there. They would just take you to like pretzel factories.
Guys, we've had a lot of hot dog talk here, and we had a story last week where someone did a brew with a hot dog. Have you ever brewed with hot dogs?
No.
No hot. All the crazy ingredients. No hot dog beers yet, though, huh?
Not yet.
Okay.
Turns out meat's a fickle thing.
Right.
A lot of people aren't super into it. So
is this beer vegan? It is not.
Not at all.
So yeah.
We're not saying we're not gonna do it, but we haven't.
Fair enough.
Meat good, meat and beer good. Meat in beer,
beer.
is
No Isling-glass in this beer, but there is hot dogs.
There is hot dogs.
FYI.
They clarify with hot dogs.
Yeah, that's right.
That's stuff. Yeah.
There's actually it just came out a collaboration with Sheetz, I think. In Pennsylvania, they did that hot dog, water, which to me, homebrewing years ago seemed like an awesome idea. It didn't necessarily turn out to be an awesome beer, but
see, I'm willing to try any of the crazy stuff. We'll see how it works out.
We will.
Yeah.
So, guys, we are about out of time. If people want to keep up with what is happening with Abomination, where should they go?
Check us out on Instagram. We post on that pretty much as soon as we have a release, anything new that's coming on. Also, our website, abominationbrewingcompany.com, and Facebook.
That'll do it, guys. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Boy. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. Join us next week as we talk with New Jersey's Source Brewing. For more craft beer info, follow us online. We are Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.